Hey, everybody. How are we doing today? I'm assuming silence means everybody's great. We'll just wait a couple minutes for people to join. Watching the Bulls try to pull the same crap they pulled yesterday. Hello, Mr. Nelson. You guys hear me all right, at least?
Hi, I can hear you. Yeah.
All right, great.
I'm going to put it on mute. I have an electrician here, so.
Sure, it's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just wait another minute here. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I didn't send out the invite early enough. It's been a little nuts today. Feels like I say that all the time. I wasn't even able to really leave my desk today and like take a shower. So that's why you get hat gains today. All right, well let's roll in here because we got it recording. So yeah, I mean, I'll let me show the high level view here of what's going on. Let me grab the latest and greatest charts. So basically, like throughout the day, I kind of chart on a separate sort of thing while the day is progressing, and then I'll update like the major charts once it's done. So if anybody wants to see any of the longer term views, please let me know. But for right now, all I'm really going to do is kind of talk about what happened here and what might come next. So let me share. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions or anything specifically that they wanted to share or ask questions about? You guys got to stop talking so much. You guys keep talking over me. So, I'm kidding. All right. So I'll just spend a little bit of time here on equities in general. So I'll use the Nasdaq as like our proxy here. I still want to pull up the longer term S&P view. I think it'll be really good to show the high level context there. So yeah, I mean it's been a crazy couple days, of course, and that's I shouldn't say it was expected, but once the bulls get the signal of charge, they just do it. So we had a couple of things happen today that I think are pretty interesting. We ended up seeing a lot of buy volume today, and just using like just the S&P in general. Last week I was talking about how this bull target 1 level was like our kind of like the high water mark here, or like our bifurcations level for the zone. And if the bulls are able to successfully reclaim this line, I don't really think it would be for a long period of time. And I'll show you what that short-term view might be. But from a long-term perspective, I think a lot of you guys are longer term, investors and not really like day traders and stuff. Good for you. That's day trading and stuff. If you're a day trader, it's very, very stressful lately. Like I think it was a late night for futures for me last night, but that's if you don't have to trade to make a living, that's you can skip a lot of this stuff, but it still doesn't make having hedge pairs and things like that any easier to own, just because they've been kind of whipsawed back and forth, and that daily compounding is really where you'll take a hit there with your positions. So with the gains portfolio, we really haven't had a good couple of days, just because everything's been kind of chopping back and forth. But I do think that once all this bull cycle is kind of done here, then I'm actually looking at releasing my longs. Right now we have this 50% mark that is very typical of this sort of ABC type of pattern. And let me take out some of this junk, because I think I'm going to do something different. So it's very typical of this ABC type of pattern. You can see another type of pattern, and I think I covered this last time, but I'll do a quick refresher. So if we do see this sort of move higher, let's say, I'll just do this real quick here, so you guys have a good sense of what's going on here. So if we do see this retrace a little higher, we could get a much larger downdraft, or drawdown, whatever you want to call it, with markets here. If we do hit this 61.8% retracement, which is about the 56.32. So with that level, like when it comes to wave counts and wave theory and things like that, you can have that happen. So right now, I think the main point of contention is whether the bulls are going to break through this longer term trend line or not. And as we can see this, throughout time here, this goes back all the way to April of last year. So it's been a full year, and that I would consider very good support and also very strong resistance. There's a lot of people that are trying to trade, the really micro and small layers, and the small little price moves. And I think that's where a lot of money is being lost, just trying to time the entries and exits, at least like on the shorter term scale. So I think that's where, one thing I'd like to stress is just like use that abundance of caution there. If you are gonna try to trade some of these things, is just that you might have some wider swings higher, maybe some swings lower than you expect, really. And what I've really kind of come to see over the last couple of weeks is that there's a lot of rules, like unwritten rules and things that have been broken about trading. So usually it's a gentleman's game. Once you reach a certain fib level, then you pivot, but they usually give you enough time to do it. Let's say 20 minutes to half hour to take profits and then flip short or flip long, that kind of thing. Usually that's what happens. So it's a little bit slower of a game, but what we've been seeing is just totally erratic price movements and things. And this morning I tried to summarize it. I don't know how well I did it, but I guess really what I was trying to say about it is that there's a lot of turmoil right now in the bond market. I think a lot of people are trying to stray away from stray away from traditionally safe assets. So that's why I'm trying to keep an eye on Bitcoin here, see if it heads up higher faster, because one, of the SMST short position, but two, because there's a lot of we're not quite sure what the market leader is going to be next. I don't think it's going to be equities. I think it's going to be like commodities, for example, like gold, silver, wheat, soybeans. But it's not really easy to trade, to be honest. Like if you're doing futures, that's I guess pretty much the only way you can really trade some of those things. But for those of us that are more savvy with trading futures and things, absolutely, go for it. It's just getting the right entries and also setting the right stops and things like that. Last night, I think we actually saw something very, very interesting. It's sort of like a paradigm shift of trading, which was we had a huge market move come in between the 1 hour a day that futures are not trading, and that was a very, very questionable move, I guess you could say. So I'm assuming, and again, I don't have hard data to back it up, but I'm assuming that there's a decent amount of margin calls today because the day would have cycled to the next day. So like at the end of today, the trading day, that's probably why we're seeing a decent amount of selling into close. I actually didn't really think it was a very bullish close at all. If you look at something like QQQ, you can see here that we had a lot of volume today with QQQ, and that's more than normal. And I also think too that's because we had the same sort of trend line, the same sort of trend line defense that's going on here. You can see that is, they tried to gap it up, or the bulls tried to gap it up, and then they sold it down through the day, but it did require a decent amount of volume. It's just something that I've just noticed recently. So, whoa, what is that? What did I do? That's the S&P. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on under the hood here. So before I go any further, does anybody have any questions about like what maybe some implications are, or like what can we do? I'm here to help you guys. So what's been some of those like burning questions that you guys have, if any?
Hi, Gaines. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, great. I finally figured out how to work the microphone.
It happens to us all. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I was wondering about the SMST trade. Is that something that we could add on to cost average a little bit better? And I guess, is there a time in your mind to do that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, so excuse me. I think it's a very good question. So the chart I sent out earlier today, I took excuse me, I took another look at it, and I'm trying to figure out like what is a good place where like a hedge would be reasonable if you needed to protect yourself, because I think a couple people had that sort of question. But if you were looking to add some more, it really kind of comes down to like where we think this is going to terminate. Now, longer term, so this drawing here, it's I guess technically you could call it an irregular, but I don't really see a 5-wave pattern here, even though it kind of looks like it. It's actually more of like just the way that the measurements are, it looks more of like one of these triple zigzag things. And I promise I will answer. But just from like a counting perspective, I like to try to dial it back and just get a good sense of where we might see these pivot or these longer term pivot points. And that's where, we want to target to add, because we were too soon. Well, I was too soon. And I added down in this cluster here, which is where, we originally saw this consolidation. And if you guys remember the drawings that we had for it, it was just a channel. And yes, it is a bull channel. And now we did see a breakout. However, there's always going to be a back test of this sort of channel. So we might see something like this, and then, maybe another rise, that kind of thing. But that's one option. That's the bullish option. One other thing you could see is not only just this rejection, let's say it goes a little bit higher like this. That would be a long sort of C leg, but it would still kind of qualify as like an irregular. But then you could see that go all the way back down and test this here, as that could be like the new leg of, like potentially like a new ABC down. So what we're trying to look for is signs of topping. So we see, volume is a big key to look for. So we see this big buy here, but everything got bought yesterday. So after you kind of distill it down here and look at it, let me actually pull this up on a clean page here for you. I think this is good. So we really want to try to pinpoint where this is likely to stop. And Bitcoin, I think, is in a similar spot. But I think that if you were going to add and you don't want to do a hedge or something like that, I would pick this like 1.236 extension level. But what I've been seeing lately is you see these little sort of moves higher or pivots lower, like a couple points. They're still doing that where it's like they'll sell it below the line or above that kind of thing, and it's really difficult to pick a pivot point, I guess you could say. But if you're hedging versus adding more going short kind of thing, that's where you want to try to be more careful with it. So now that we've kind of flagged this level here, now let's try to take a look at this last count. So the last, assuming it's a C leg here, and assuming we have this ABC continuation, which I think is correct, more than likely, well, that's actually it's funny that we see almost an exact line right here where that extension was. So this is what I mean when I say things like these wave counts and things are fractal in nature, which just means that the pattern repeats itself on longer term time-frames, or I also call this, it's like a confluence of fib levels. So the reality is, more than likely this is going to be a very, very large consolidation point, or just a rejection sort of point. And I bet you that if we back it up a little bit more, and then we add another fib drawing here. I'm sorry, it's a long-winded answer, but I feel like a lot of people are going to have the same question, especially ones that maybe watch the webinar later. So I just want to try to be thorough with this. So we had this 50% retracement line at this 386 level. So I would assume here that this is like your add short zone with this little box, if that makes sense. And again, like I put it a little bit beforehand because you never know. Like sometimes they'll pivot at a couple points right before, and everybody who's got limit orders up there, they won't get filled, and it's like, haha, gotcha. I hate that stuff, but it happens. So if you are looking to add, that's where I would target. Now, one last little thing I wanted to say about it is just watch out for something like, because typically with these sort of like ABC waves, you can see decent extensions. So this is not my favorite drawing here. I was messing with this today, but an extension here, this 1.382, this is it's like a continuation of this wave. So you could draw like a 5-wave count sort of thing here, and it would be, it would just have a long wave one. It doesn't really look as symmetrical as it probably could, but that's just another way to say that there is some sort of there is like a decent amount of credibility for seeing some sort of fifth wave like this. But if all that stuff aside, if you just want to keep it simple, just want to just not really worry about it, what I would say is you could probably put like I probably wouldn't add too much, just because you never know what's going to happen with this crazy market. But what you can do is you can move down like a stop or something below the latest low. And so if I zoom in, sorry, maybe not a stop, but if you guys are familiar with like a stop limit order, those are really helpful, where the stop is like, let's say you set the level at 338 and then the limit is for 338. So the stop needs to trigger first. So the system says, okay, you got a 338. That means now this limit order is triggered at, let's say, 338. So that means that it could be filled at 338 or slightly higher, or sometimes even higher than that, depending on what happens. But that's a good thing if you're trying to fill like a short order. And you could also use the order like one cancels the other. Some brokers allow if you use one ticker to trigger another ticker, but it's unlikely that it's shared for all. So with that being said, I guess if you wanted to add, I know I just spent like 10 minutes on this, but I still think it's important. I would say pick a level that is maybe slightly below, like the last low that we saw intraday, because this is probably going to be like a wave 4 or something, or it could be, or we could have already seen it top out, because this is at 100%. You can see here, so that's A equals C. And I mentioned that a lot in some of my posts, but this A equals C sort of touch on the trend line here that it seems to trigger some decent selling today. So I would say you're kind of like stuck in that no man's land right now with MSTR, and I wish that I had like a better like a better sort of forecast for it. But it's just one of those things where like this could either be a tiny little wave 4, and then we see another quick jaunt up, or not. We could just see it just continue to fall down again. So hopefully it's a little bit more clear than mud, right? But that's why I wanted to try to talk it through, is that there's so many different scenarios, and that's kind of what we've been seeing with equities as well. So hopefully I didn't confuse the crap out of you, but I just wanted to kind of talk it through.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. The one thing I hate is like if people get stranded, or, like they hedge too late, that kind of thing. Like, I want to help where I can. And being able to kind of pinpoint these areas and try to like take it one day at a time. That's, I think, a much easier approach than trying to, kind of throw darts at the board and just say like, this is your target, and if it hits this, then do that. Sometimes that works, but other times there are scenarios where we need to evaluate what could happen within a range. And I think that's kind of where we're at with MSTR. Same thing. That's a good segue to same thing here with, if I go back to, let me go back to the S&P. And I just wanted to zoom in real quick, show you guys what's going on. Okay, yeah. So let's assume right now that this is like an ABC. We don't need to worry about the rest of this junk here, but we can still see here that this bull target 1, that's where we're gonna see a rejection if we see one at all right now. I still think that we're seeing a little bit of consolidation here, and sorry, I'm closing my window. I still think we're seeing a little consolidation, so we might see something like this, where it goes up, it dips down, we see some more consolidation and like a B wave, and then we shoot up higher. Now, the one reason I'm thinking, just because we've had 2 days of pretty strong bull price action, but another thing is just that I don't want you guys to be unprepared for something like this, because there's you can absolutely draw some sort of like ascending wedge here. And there should be 5 connection points within the ascending wedge. And it doesn't, yes, it does matter that this trend line is here. It's going to be defended, but that also means that it could just be the end of a first wave. So if I were to draw this out again, because I do think that this is like a middle of the road kind of wave. You could, there's many different ways to draw this, and that's what's the frustrating part. So if you like come down when you draw a wave like this, typically that means it's the origin point. But I don't want to go into details with it, but long story short of it is we could see something like this develop where, once this 618 level is hit, that is the entire range from peak to trough. And if that is hit, then I do expect there to be a pretty decent, leg of selling down. And I think, a lot of bulls are probably thinking here that we're seeing a lot of bulls are probably thinking we're seeing this sort of 1-2 setup, where it's gonna go to the moon here, and they may be correct. I don't know yet. It's just kind of how you read the tea leaves here, because these guys are really good at ending the day at inflection points where you're not sure if it's going to go up or go down, right? And there's really only 2 directions. It can go up, down. But you're trying to pick the longer term sort of use. But I guess you can say that while I'm expecting some sort of wedge like this to form, it's going to run into a lot of resistance here. So this longer term trend line, guys, this is where you really want to like focus and take a look at this, because this is where you're going to see that bifurcation of the zones, where you can see either a continuation of the selling where we can make a new low, that kind of thing, and that would be a little bit more symmetrical, or it continues higher and then bounces up here, consolidates, and then takes another low. I don't think that there's enough. I don't know how to say it. I don't think that there's enough good news that could happen unless aliens came to Earth or something and bestowed great riches upon us, where we could make a new high, like beyond the 61.46 that we saw a couple months ago. I do think that that's like, all the sell delta that you see up here, bulls got to get through all that, which means you got to have 1,000 tweets a day, of nothing but great news. But I think that enough damage has been done to not just like, economies, but like, the trust as a trading partner for the US, and also with the bond market actually being the bigger story than equities. The bond market's 10% bigger than, or sorry, 10 times bigger than the equity market. So I don't think that we're going to see this massive run. And I really hope I'm not wrong with it, because I want you guys to make the right, or make the wrong plays. But there is definitely a bull case here where you could see us hit this, or we could see price hit this 61.8. Now, the only other thing I wanted to show you guys here is an alternative scenario. One second. Here we go. And I'm going to flip to the Nasdaq real quick. Wait, sorry. Hold on. I don't want to do that yet. I wanted to show you what this pattern would look like for the S&P. So that the trend line here is important, but the shape of this is also important. It's definitely looking like a flag. 1 second. Let me get this. I know I'm jumping around. I'm sorry, guys. We're talking about the stuff all day. I get all excited when we're talking about data. So this flag pattern is pretty clear, and I'm thinking that the bulls here wanted to really break through it, but we also saw a pretty decent rejection on some higher volume at this 50% level. So until it's not, or until that level is broken, I remain bearish. And then I would be neutral if it breaks that until we get to this 618 level. But if it breaches this level with high volume, then I would flip bull. But I just think that there's so many bearish things that are stacked against this market right now that any sort of recovery is going to be, the big players trying to recover their, the longs that they took up here. I mean, if they didn't get out of them here, by accumulating down here and getting out, then that's their fault. But this is a pretty clear sort of ABC that you could forecast for this whole pattern. But that's, I would say, the most extreme bullish case. I don't think that you'll see something like that. I actually think we're going to see something that the pattern looks a little bit easier in the Nasdaq here. So I showed this last week, and I tried to put some like head and shoulders on it. Or oh no, I actually think I showed it a couple days ago. I didn't think that it would only take 2 days for this to show up, but kind of what this shows here is that even though there is a flag pattern, and we do have this sort of rejection here, we still need to see a continuation of it. So what I would like to see is something where it heads down. Let's say it tests this trend line, maybe bounces up, and then we see some sort of finishing move to this first leg of this correction. I think this is probably the I would say this is probably the most extreme bear case. So I showed you the the bull case, which is like the bull flag going up to the 786 retracement, and then this would be the antithesis of that. So what we're looking at, I guess, would be considered the worst case scenario. Probably what is a more likely scenario is maybe something like this, something a little bit more middle of the road. And so if I take this out of here, I kind of think that maybe this is just normal pattern expansion, and this ends up being like a longer count sort of B wave, or like a yes, it is still a flag here, but you could see this kind of cluster, and this could turn into this could actually turn into like a wave 2-3 in hindsight, and this would just be one of these really high wave 2 retracements. Hold on, I'll make that a little bit clearer here. So does that make sense so far? Just trying to do like a pulse check. I know I talk fast, but to try to draw this out. I mean, you might see something like this where we're already, or at least we're about ready to start this wave 3 down. It hasn't really been very bearish over the last couple of days. I'd say like week and a half. Yeah, we've had some grind down here, but a lot of that was on lower volume, like price discovery. You could always kind of tell that it was going to bounce a little bit. But at least from like a charting perspective, I think this is, it's a possibility. But I don't want to just, scream at the top of my lungs here and say that it's super bearish, but kind of is when you're looking at it from a perspective of, something like this chart. Oh man, here we go. This chart where, this, at least like with the wave counts and things like that, it's possible that it's just a quick jaunt up here and then it just rolls right over, and then you get a wave 3, and nothing is safe. so again, like I would say like right in the middle of that bifurcation level, and I'm prepared for I guess every scenario where I'm hedged 1-to-1 with my longs and shorts. If we do get up to this level, this 0.618, I am going to close my longs, whether that's taking a small loss or a reasonable loss, whatever. I'm still getting out, because if we do have a major rollover, even if we jet up to here and then roll over, that's still like, we shouldn't see this level again for quite some time. I was reading some other forecasts from some learned individuals, and they're calling for like 4,500 as well. And I think 4,500 is probably, or like 4,500 by the end of the year. I think that's probably a little high, to be honest. I think once people start selling and flooding to the exits, it's going to go fast, and there's a lot of money you can make from it. But the question is really like, you got to, how do you protect yourself while the market is in price discovery mode, trying to figure out, climbing that wall of worry, how high are we going to go? Having these massive market run-ups, when everybody's asleep, doesn't really help anything. But what it does do is it climbs this wall pretty fast, where you get to see, all this additional price action here, and you can kind of see like what might happen in the next couple days. But the clarity of longer term becomes more cloudy, I guess you could say. Does that make sense? But okay, so that's kind of like what I'm thinking is going on with equities here. Like, we're just at that middle of the road approach, and there's really nothing you can do about it right now. Just sit tight and watch it for a day or two. I do think that what we saw today was a good bearish response to what the bulls have been trying to do. I think that the bears who got squeezed real bad here, they probably said never again, and then here it happens, with that surprise in the time that futures weren't trading last night. So big funds couldn't hedge and stuff like that. So I'm thinking that bears are selling into it. You can see it by the volume, but also there's that like vigorous defense of that 50% retracement level. So that tells me that there's really big money that is now fighting over this level. And us as retail traders trying to figure it out, you really don't want to make any big moves, like any big trades, like long or short, really, until you have more confirmation. And confirmation would be something like this white line here. So the bullish heads up rejects, and again, the tea leaves here are saying, okay, we've had this, we've had this crossover, this bearish crossover, this it's called the death cross, where the 50-day moving average crosses over the 200, and some traders only trade that. I mean, it's you can find stock screeners and stuff that can select those for you. That's just a enormously bearish long-term view, or a long-term sort of indicator. So that's kind of why I'm like, again, trying to lean towards this bearish part. And again, I don't think there's going to be a big run up here for like a wave 3 and everybody, makes $1 million going long. I think those times are over, unless there's some sort of catalyst behind it. Okay, so that's equities per se. Anybody have any questions? I could cover gold and maybe take a look at some other stuff if you'd like.
Hey, Gaines, can you just help me understand your Boyle trade a little bit more? I'm not really a trader, but I do follow everything you say.
Oh, well, Just tell my wife. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, absolutely. That's it's a great question. All right, so let's look at let's look at this guy. Let me pull up the chart. We got a lot of these things, guys. There we go. Okay, so seasonality here with gas is it's and I see Don on the call here. You might want to chime in if I'm missing the mark on this, but gas is, I guess, seasonally bullish through like May. Like the stock, they try to build the stocks up, that kind of thing. But it's also just like a commodity in general, and it has that cyclical sort of nature. So recently, I guess the longer term view, we saw a lot of a lot of buying all kind of through spring here, which is what we kind of anticipated, and then we saw this ABC down. Well, what I kind of think is happening here is that this ABC leg has wrapped up, and this next wave down here, I think it's going to be something like this, where you'll see just a temporary sort of bounce like this. Sorry, let me see if I can get it more clear. But like this B wave here should coincide with this move, and if I just because like this this puts us sorry, this is illustrative only here. It's not like an actual forecast with it, but I would say probably like end of May is probably when we want to start trying to get out of it or get out of gas, just because of the cyclical nature of it. And if we get a good run, then I'll close it out. But for the most part, if we look at more of the shorter time frame here, you could see here that we've got like a head and shoulders sort of view, but it hasn't really materialized here for the right shoulder. And typically when you see these sort of things, usually it just means that we haven't seen like the obligatory bounce yet. So more likely than not, you'll probably see something like this as it attempts to correct, this latest move. And you could probably draw, or no, not probably, I'm going to do it right now. You can draw a line here for like the last high, and it gets a little weird because the contract changes and things like that with gas. It doesn't quite equal out, but if you can get close, it's good. So we did see the bear target here that was hit. The longer term trend line is definitely below, but I think that it's going to be time here for a bounce. And one of those things that is a hallmark of that is you can certainly, I say it all the time, like a great indicator of topping is when volume declines and price keeps shooting up. But there's the opposite of that. Well, not opposite, I guess. There's the convergence, which is a sign that selling is drying up. So with this volume going down overall here, you can kind of see like it had a bit of a peak up here, and then traders are selling it down because it was testing this trend line and stuff. But while I do think it might head down a little bit lower to like this bear target 2, like 2.8, something like that, I think that once that happens, like this selling has pretty much dried up, and that usually means that all the bulls that have been accumulating on the way down here, then that's their that's kind of the any day now sort of thing. They might spike it. So hopefully, I guess hopefully those who were holding cold for shorts, it's been very good the last couple days to kind of see all these at least like half gas get back down to where it was, where hopefully you guys were able to get out of some of those shorts. But at least like from the long side play, you might want to consider a hedge if it's still open, or sorry, if your cold short is still open. Again, we may have this little move down here before we see this spike up, but still thinking that overall it's getting into that buy zone for some sort of I wouldn't say like longer term bounce, but kind of like a 2-3 week bounce. Does that make sense? Hopefully I covered it okay.
Yeah, that explains it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, hopefully So when I try to do commentary and stuff, like, in the mornings, I'll try to address, like, things I've heard in chat, or people send me DMs like, hey, I'm trapped in cold, that kind of thing. Like, you have any ideas, or like, what do you think might happen here? I don't mind answering that stuff. So feel free to ask. I mean, I can't give advice, obviously, but I can at least, like, share what I think might happen, or at least, like, walk through some different scenarios. So I'm happy to do that, especially if other people are in it. So happy to answer something like that in discussion. So feel free to ask. Okay. Any other questions? Are you guys surviving? It's like every day. I couldn't even leave my computer today. I can't get anything done. Wife keeps getting mad at me. The garbage wasn't taken out yesterday. Anyways, yeah, it happens though. Yeah, I wish it would calm down a little bit. But
we won't see another squeeze tonight, Gaines.
Oh, I missed it. Oh no.
Hopefully, we won't see another squeeze tonight.
Oh yeah, hopefully, yeah, man. I'd like to get some sleep. I don't think I've really slept more than 6 hours a night in April, except maybe one Saturday. So,
Yeah, join the club.
Okay, well, now's your opportunity to ask a question, or I guess we could call it a day. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for joining. I appreciate it. Hopefully this has been helpful. If not, please let me know in the comments. Send me a DM or something like that. I'm always trying to improve the customer experience here. So, but I'm also trying to make sure that you guys have enough information to try to weather this this craptastic round of trading that we've been going through. But if you guys have been able to survive and be able to hedge, and at least try to be at least try to be smart about it, then that's great. That's all you can ever ask for. It's just to protect your hard-earned money, because it takes a long time to make it back if you make some poor choices. And if other people make those choices for you, like they do a short squeeze or something, and you're just not there to catch it in time, or your stops don't trigger or whatever, don't beat yourself up for it. There's always second and usually third chances to exit poorly timed positions. I mean, you guys saw me get out of shorts twice that were very underwater over the last year. Despite looking like an idiot, it's still able to be done, right? So that's one of the things I like to try to teach, is just patience. So if you have things that are trapped, if you lost some money, making some decisions that you thought were right at the time, like, don't beat yourself up for it. This is really hard. It's the hardest game that you can play. And I always encourage you guys to ask questions and participate in stuff, because it's a good community, a lot of savvy and smart people. And yeah, so that's your pep talk. That's your stick with it, guys. It'll be all right. We'll make some money out of this market.
Thank you, Gaines. Very helpful.
No problem. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining, and I'll post this on YouTube here, and I'll send it out to everybody in the very near future.
Thank you, Gaines.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.